an extent, yes, because you see, the powers of the president have to be weighed against the needs of the nation. A too powerful president may be inimical to the interests of the nation. A president, again, whose powers have been taken away so much that they are so feeble, they are so weak, again, it's not in the interest of the nation. So you need to balance the two. The president swears when they are being sworn in to uphold the constitution, to uphold the rule of law, and to uphold everything that is in the interest of the nation. So that when they sometimes think that certain laws, certain pieces of legislation may favor them, I don't think that's the route that one should take. Because today, it may be me in power, but I will not be there forever. What about when I leave? Let's look at the Patriotic Front, for example. There were things that they wanted to do that they thought could favor them. How favorable are those things today? Because they are no longer in power. So equally for the UPND, always at the back of people's minds, leaders' minds, must be the view that if we left power and we leave laws that disadvantage the opposition, won't these same laws also disadvantage us when we leave power? But you see, power being what it is, there's always a tendency that I'm here and I'll be here. But power belongs to the people, and we don't know what happens after each and every election. So the best is Dr. Kaunda's view, the Bible's view. Do unto others what you'd like them to do unto you. Ensure that the laws that you pass are those that favor you and will favor anybody else who comes into power, because they are nationalistic, because they are in the interest of the nation. And I believe some of the things that we that were in Bill 7 were really in the interest of the nation. The interesting part of it is this, the delimitation especially. It was attacked left, right, and center. But after it was passed, you have seen the scramble. Even before the constituencies were announced, people were announcing their own constituencies and placing themselves as candidates. And even when the Electoral Commission of Zambia announced the 70 constituencies, eventually there has been a lot of quarreling and fighting and struggling, meaning that even if people did not appear to like Bill 7, but after it was passed, it became literally a hot cake that everybody wants to participate in, particularly the component of delimitation, the additional constituencies. So in that case, then you see that certain aspects of Bill 7 were in national interest. Opposing views as there were so many, but eventually those have died down and they have been won over to the same side that pushed the agenda of Bill 7. And many people now feel some of those legislative acts that were brought out through Bill 7 are actually overall in the interest of the nation.
What are the advantages and disadvantages of delimitation? Obviously it has made the House bloated, 70 extra members of Parliament. Does this country need a bloated Parliament at a time when the economy is biting?
Unfortunately, democracy is not cheap. And when you legislate in your constitution that every 10 years you must have delimitation, it's by law that it be done. And it is by law that it was done. It was according to the laws that we have given ourselves. And also, bearing in mind this fact that 22 million people now, almost 22 million people being represented by 156. And vast as this country is, particularly in terms of terrain and the road infrastructure and all these other problems that we have, perhaps delimitation was the right way to go, so that constituencies can be made smaller, so that the distribution of resources is made a lot easier
and more equitable at the end of the day, such that everybody feels included in the national development agenda. So in my view, delimitation, expensive as it is, as it has been, and also costly in terms of going forward, because we are going to have what people are calling a bloated National Assembly. It's not a bloated National Assembly. It's a National Assembly in accordance with the requirements of the law, in accordance with the requirements of the growing democracy that we have in this country, and of course the growing population that we have, that at every turn requires a lot more service provision than before, because when a population grows, you need more people to deal with the kind of problems that people face.
Some of the members of Parliament, barely speak in the House. How can members of Parliament, be made effective, and most important, be responsive to the people they represent?
I think for me, the answer is the devolution that we have seen take place, where, for example, at the constituency level, there is this 40 million sitting there. The local people have now the chance, and I think that's why there was that struggle whether MPs should be sitting in the councils or not. Because the MPs, apart from just passing laws and arguing and debating in Parliament, they have constituencies, except the nominated ones. But those that are elected in the constituencies, they need to ensure that they fulfill the mandate why they were sent to Parliament. And the mandate is to ensure that development is achieved in every constituency of this country. Unfortunately, some MPs, literally after being elected, they fizzle out into the oblivion until the next election cycle. That's when, so such a constituency, this has been their MP, because you don't hear them, you don't see them, even the electorates. That's why you have seen what has happened when the UPN attempted primaries. A lot of people were rejected.
Absolutely.
Because they were MPs only on paper. They were never in the constituencies. So we need a system where, like now, I hope the MPs will now sit in the councils. The MPs should also sit in the ward development committees, so that on the ground they are able to see what is going on. Their job is not just sitting in the National Assembly. Their job is sitting in the constituency offices, which apparently exist in all the constituencies. The new ones will need their own offices to be built. So they need to sit in the constituency offices, hear, listen to the people, debate with the people, iron out issues, push the agenda of development. Then that makes them more effective, that makes them more prominent, and that makes them more of contributing factors to national development.
I was going to follow up with defections, but let me put that on ice just a little bit longer, and revisit the process of enacting laws. The consultation, dialogue is the essence of democracy. Doc, why did this government choose to be combative, to drag their way, at any, cost, instead of consulting, widely?
I think in my view, they faced a challenge that from independence, we have had very difficult situations in amending the constitution. We appoint a commission of inquiry, they bring out ideas, you see it, you debate, eventually you throw them away. Can't we have a better system where when these ideas are gathered, they are brought together, documented, and we push such an agenda that they are implemented, and we move the nation forward? Perhaps, in my view, that is where they were coming from, that we have had all these other legislative periods which have ended in zero, and yet the cost of those has been colossal. Can't we have a system where we spend less but more effective, and we implement what we come up with. So perhaps in my view, they were trying to break with the past and come up with a system that works. A system that does not just end up with people receiving allowances, but nothing to show for it. That's the way I see this process, rather than it being bulldozed to the extent that it was at the expense of the nation and at the expense of everybody else. The challenge of constitutional commissions, and even in this regard, you remember the Mushabati group. They brought out ideas, put them together, but then those ideas again were not used. So we still are back to ground zero. So we need a system that enables those that are appointed to make recommendations, pick up those recommendations, ensure that they find themselves into the National Assembly, they are acted upon, and the laws come out that are in the interest of the nation. But maybe because of lack of time, like we have seen with those 74 bills, because of lack of time, they wanted to legislate in a manner that would quickly bring about Bill 7, have it enacted into law, and then we move forward as a nation. And that is what I think has happened.
Defections, you have raised your concern. Many people have raised their concern about this, and it's been going on, for years. What is the answer? How should this be, addressed? Do we need a political bill, to deal, with this situation, that can be costly, to the people who these members of parliament, represent?
Well, I thought, I still believe that there's a law which does not allow members of parliament to cross the floor.
The speaker ignored it.
But when some MPs announced at various fora that they had joined the UPND before dissolution of parliament, that certainly meant they had crossed the floor. And those should have been dealt with in like manner. But then I think that was glossed over, and we were told that that was just intention, but they had actually not crossed the floor. But when someone makes a public statement, it means that's their intention, that is what they want to do, and that is what they have done. But then when that is overlooked and you still believe they have not crossed the floor, the issue of defections, I thought the UPND had come in handy in dealing a blow to defections once and for all, when it was announced that those who had defected would not be adopted at the expense of those who had been with the party for such a long time in opposition and in government. And we thought, defectors are now being taught a lesson. But that was not to be. Now we have seen the same defectors are being glorified and being preferred over those who have been with the party. It doesn't mean that in those constituencies, those who have been with the party are not popular or they are not good enough. But perhaps it's payback time. Is it because they had performed certain things like we hear, that they had supported Bill 10, so they should also be gratified by adopting them? We don't know. But at the end of the day, we need a system that allows those that defect not to be adopted by the party that they have defected to. But the challenge with democracy is they say that democracy is a game of numbers.
Absolutely.
And every number counts. And so sometimes political parties are constrained from preventing people, because those that defect don't defect alone. They defect with their followers. They defect with their teams. So they bring numbers to political parties. So at such a point, sometimes political parties want to look the other way and ignore their own people so that they accommodate those, because they are bringing in more in terms of numbers, but they are also bringing in popularity, if that popularity is really true on the ground.
Doc, you did, allude to the fact that a number of incumbents, have been rejected at primary level, especially in the UPND. what does this, tell you? It obviously shows, that the party hierarchy is completely devoid of reality. If this is the case, what do you read into this, and what is the impact on the status of these political parties as a result of the electorate rejecting the incumbents?
You see, the trouble with politics, I don't know why, but politicians never learn from history.
Yeah. Strange people.
The Patriotic Front adopted a malfunctional system of adopting candidates.
Yeah.
In some cases, supporting an independent and supporting a party-adopted candidate, believing that whoever won would still be their follower. And some people won, and they were not anywhere near the Patriotic Front in the National Assembly.
Yeah.
They opted to side with the ruling party because they were independent, and you couldn't fault them. And we are seeing exactly the same pattern happening to the UPND. The adoption system of the Patriotic Front cost them that election because some of the candidates they adopted were very unpopular.
Yeah.
Some of the candidates they rejected were actually the ones who should have given them a lot of votes, but they overlooked them for various reasons best known to themselves. And the UPND has found itself right in the middle of that very problem of adopting people whose track records they only know as opposition political leaders. Rejecting their own people who have this massive support on the ground, who have been doing all the work on the ground all these years. And then that then brings estrangement of those that have been with the party in favor of those that are newcomers. That tends to drive a wedge between the followers of the party, supporters of the party, and the party leadership. And I think if this is the way the UPND is doing it, it will be extremely difficult to win the August elections. But let me say this, that what I have seen from my reading of history, political history and economic history, is that sometimes leaders are used by external forces to destroy themselves.
Right.
Because you end up with infiltrators influencing the policy direction in a manner that eventually it costs you an election. And you only realize after you have lost, which is not very good. And this is what I'm seeing at play, even within the UPND. Because to sideline your most ardent followers and ardent supporters,
the people you grew up with, for lack of a better word, who developed, the political party,
and they were aspiring. Because the argument that some people had overstayed in parliament, they needed to be replaced. They did not need to be replaced by opponents. They needed to be replaced by people within the rank and file of the party. But when you opt for the opposition members to take over your, whether new constituencies or old ones, you favor those at the expense of your own people. You have opened a wound that may be difficult to heal. And that's how you end up with the story we are seeing in Mazabuka, the story we have begun to see even in Chavuma, because of such matters. So it will be an election that will be extremely difficult for the UPND because of the decisions that they are making themselves.
Right. Let's talk about a vexing situation here, and this is alliances. In particular, alliances among the opposition political parties, because this has been the big news, again, for lack of a better way of, putting it. First, the good part of it, the amalgamation of the Makebi and Mutubila in a team, but sadly, they're already having, problems. Hopefully they could sort out the problems in terms of the numbers that you talked about, in terms of sharing the constituencies. But in general, why are alliances so difficult, to achieve? That's part of the equation. Two, are they effective, in this, in a country?
They are extremely difficult to sustain unless you have a very strong overriding party around which crowd smaller parties.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying this because when I look at the success of the UPND, the UPND is so big, so strong. Then there were these other parties that coalesced around the UPND, and together they pushed the agenda and won the elections. Mm-hmm. But when you have two cobras, if I may say, in Bemba they say bangoshe tabekala urupako lumo or ichulu chimo.
Absolutely.
You can't have two cobras in the same hole in the tree.
Yeah.
When you have two very strong candidates, and two strong parties coming together, obviously it is not just a Zambian situation. Everywhere in the world, it has been extremely difficult when it comes to sharing portfolios, when it comes to sharing even constituencies. And this may play out between Honorables Mutubila and Makebi Zulu. And for them, the most challenging part is this. They are both lawyers.
Yeah.
And that takes you to Uganda when professors, Lule and others, Binaisa and others, took power, and they couldn't agree over the most trivial issues until their government collapsed. Yeah. So, unless Honorable Mutubila and Honorable Makebi Zulu tone down and listen to other people, they don't use their legal understanding of matters. If they go legal, it will be extremely difficult to work together. Because this one will say the law he knows is the law I know. So what is he telling me? They may fail to work together. Bear in mind, I talked about infiltration. If they are not careful, they might be infiltrated by advisors who will divide them more than uniting them.
Absolutely. As a rider, to that, why is it? I know you've alluded about the challenges of alliances. The flip side, of that. Why is it that even smaller parties, even individuals who have competed, before, who have performed dismally, still continue participating when there's no iota, in chances of them ever, even gaining 1% of the electorate? Why do they continue? Is there something that we don't know? Perhaps the backers, that you alluded to, who are influencing them, who wants to benefit, from the investment that have made in these people. What is it?
Well, there are three arguments that can be raised there. One, I heard one is late now. One politician once said, I have formed a political party so that I can also be invited to sit among presidents. When the Republican president is sitting, I'm one of them.
Wow.
That was the reasoning.
Wow.
Two, some people are in politics for business. Because this is the time when political parties now reach out to funders, the European Union, all these international organizations in the UK, in the USA, and everywhere else that give support, financial support, in order to advance the cause of democracy. So they know that no matter how small I am, I will pocket maybe £100,000 or $100,000 in order to participate in the elections. I'll use $10,000. I'll keep the remaining $90,000. So that is a business venture for some. For others, it's genuinely the belief that they will eventually grow and eventually take power. Starting small, growing over time, and especially if they are led by young people, then eventually with their own ideas, they will grow and perhaps one day they will take power. And that's what I see in some of these political parties. Some are not necessarily gunning for winning 2026, but certainly they are looking at 2031. But they need their presence on the ground so that people keep thinking about them, people keep hearing them, seeing them, so that when one day the time comes, they'll say, this party has been there, this leader has been consistent, and they get elected.
Related into that, your thoughts about the withdrawal of my good friend, State Council, Sangwa. I personally, I understand his reasons, but, many people are disappointed.
They would be disappointed. Yes, I was disappointed. But looking at the eminent personality of John Sangwa, he's a realistic person.
Yeah.
And also being an academic and a lawyer, his realism is that if it doesn't work, why push the agenda? Why pretend? He did not want to pretend. Though personally, I would rather he would have joined other forces with other people to push the national agenda. But that does not mean he's down and out. He may come back in another form some other time, because his ideas meant a lot, especially the view, the argument, the agenda that let's have a political party purely funded by Zambians. That was a novel idea. Let's raise 1 million supporters of this political party. But then this is a nation where people, like I've said, some people are in politics for money, for business. A lot of followers follow political parties in terms of politics of the belly. They want to benefit financially, in terms of other resources, and some in terms of contracts. So to support a person who simply says, let's raise 1 million supporters and let's be Zambian true and true, many people find it very strange. And so he didn't get the support that he would have gotten. Though, like I said, it would have been best for him to remain, even if he didn't take part in 2026, but to remain relevant as a political entity in spite of the challenges he faced in registering the political party, but remain relevant, remain on the agenda, remain in the minds of the people. Then one day they will turn around. The way people turned around and said, wait a minute, there has been an HH who has been pushing an agenda all these many years.
Absolutely.
Why are we sticking with the Patriotic Front who have disappointed us? Let's give this guy a chance. And here we are, majority Zambians voted overwhelmingly, and the UPND is in power today.
Absolutely. Before I talk about, other issues related to the elections, let's spend 1 or 2 minutes on the possible demise of, PF. I think Mike Osata remains, he will be turning in the grave to see how PF has been ripped apart deliberately and self, damage. Your thoughts on that?
You see, when Michael Sata died, they faced challenges which they overcame easily and even won power. And Edgar Lungu became president. May he so rest in peace, just like the soul of Michael Sata. After that, when they lost power, it's always advisable to quickly transition into a new leadership so that they hold together that political party, because chances of splitting up, chances of breaking up are always best when a political party has lost power. But they ignored that. They didn't go to a convention in spite of so many voices within the party insisting that there be a convention. And at some point, people even paid the nomination fees for president and other things. But that was not to be. In my view, the mistake the Patriotic Front made was to believe that one day Edgar Lungu would come back. So let's keep his position vacant. Politics does not wait for an individual. Politics is always in transition because it is dynamic. And every day you spend in politics, things change. And that's why they say that a week is a very long time in politics. So that was the most devastating mistake they made, to keep the presidency vacant almost forever. And eventually people's patience ran out. They began to splinter. They began to hold whatever conventions they were holding, and power found itself in factional groupings.
Yeah.
And of course, there were accusations that this or that were the sponsors. Those may have sponsored, but they just took advantage of a porous situation that the Patriotic Front themselves had created. They shouldn't have done what they did.
Right. One question before I play a piece of music and then open the lines, and I don't want to break down the questions because there'll be too many. I want you to summarize. Let me ask you your observations. In terms of where we are today, the process going forward, the nominations, the qualifications that ECZ has applied on the candidates, especially the presidential candidates. The environment, is the environment, a right, to hold a free and fair, election. Your observations.
Let me start with ECZ.
Yeah.
I think sometimes we mislead ourselves in focusing more on the origin of the officers that we put in place to function and run a system.
Yeah.
We have had this tendency to want to sway the nation into believing that ECZ cannot run that office because of the nature of the places where they come from. We forget that first and foremost, those are Zambians.
Okay.
Secondly, they are qualified to hold those offices. Thirdly, they are accountable to the Zambian people. Why am I saying this? I'm saying this because if you remember the previous Electoral Commission of Judge Chulu, it was accused in a similar manner by the UPND and other opposition political parties that it was a tool for the Patriotic Front to rig elections. But that never came to pass. Why? Because those were eminent Zambians whose interest was to save the nation and nothing else. And that is what I see today. Madam Zalumis and all the people that are in the Electoral Commission of Zambia have a duty, have an allegiance to the state, to the nation of Zambia. Because right now, the whole burden of peace is on their heads. If they mess up, the nation goes up in flames. So they understand that as Zambians, they have to do the best there is.
Right.
When you look at the adoptions now, I don't think you can fault them. They have done the best there is to be done. They have been very meticulous. When Honorable Mutubila and Makebi Zulu were filing in, it was live on social media. And where I was in a barber shop, and the young men were saying, no, it's taking too long. No, I said, no, it should take long because we want those that are going to be, to stand, to be checked so thoroughly that no mistake can arise. Because imagine after the ECZ has processed the paperwork and everything, and then outsiders say that this person you processed actually is a foreigner. What have you done to the nation? You have killed the nation. So those people have a responsibility. And that is why wherever I've been, I implore citizens to have trust in the people that we put in these offices, because they are Zambians first and their allegiance is to Zambia. It's difficult because they are not the only ones who are going to vote. Theirs is just to oversee the process. And if you follow what they have been doing, in my view, it has been so meticulous that at the end of the day, when an announcement is made that so and so has not qualified because of this and that, and the owner puts up tantrums, and then the following day they say, I'm supporting the president. What does that tell you? It tells you that ECZ was right. They did an honest job. They did a correct job. So we need to have confidence in those people we have put in the ECZ so that they do a job that is in the best interest of the country.
Disappointed, that they are not there's no single, female, presidential candidate. Disappointed from that score. And having said that on that particular, issue, and also women in general, are you hoping, that the proportional representation would take care, of the women, and also comment on lack of presidential candidates, females?
I thought Honorable Given Katuta was going to stand as an independent
I thought so too.
Presidential candidate. I thought Madam Chishala Kateka, my sister, was going to stand.
Dolika also, I thought.
No, but Dolika went hand in glove with, is it Socialist Party?
With initially Sangwa, and now with Socialist Party.
Dr.
She's
Membe.
a running mate.
She's a running mate, yes.
The Alliance of Socialist Party. Yeah.
So on that score, perhaps, yes, she's getting close to power. But the UPND probably will run with Madam Narumango.
Yeah.
And for us as a country, that should be good enough. Yeah. But oftentimes it's advisable, if you weigh your options and see that you may not win, there's no point in wanting to stand just for the sake of standing. What's the other matter?
The proportional
representation. That's a very interesting subject. Why interesting? It was opposed left, right, and center. But here we are now. We are seeing it as a very important vehicle for ushering in additional voices into our parliament. And the beauty about it is that it's not winner take everything. It is proportional because the parties that will feature in the presidential election, depending on the percentage of their vote, that will then translate into the percentage of those that have to go on the threshold of proportional representation. I think you can't have it better than that. Because if, let's say, imagine the opposition wins, and whichever opposition political party wins, and their presidential candidate gets, for argument's sake, let's say 53%. It means 53% of the threshold of proportional representation will be picked by that political party.
Absolutely.
If the UPND wins, it will be the UPND picking. So when it was brought up, it looked like it was meant to favor the UPND. But when you critically analyze it, it doesn't favor the UPND.
Absolutely.
It favors the nation, because whichever political party wins will be the one that will nominate the majority of those people. So it's not a UPND affair, it's a national affair. And I would implore fellow citizens to look at it from that point of view.
This is the Thursday edition of The Burning Issue. My guest, Dr. Euston Chiputa. We're looking at, again, governance issues and also electoral issues. And if you'd like to participate, the number to call us is 0761 912 493. 0761 9124 93. As the calls come in, here's Muntungwa.
Who cares? He doesn't care about you. Can't you see that he doesn't love you? The fool is just killing time with you.
Oh no, Nsama. I will not have you insult my husband in his house. No.
9-3.
Good morning, Ambassaor.
Morning. Good morning. Hello, good morning. 0761912493. Do we have someone on the line? Good morning.
Good morning, I'm Frank.
Morning. Your name, please?
Yes, I'm calling you from within the sack. Am I clear?
Sorry?
Am I clear there?
Yes, we can hear you. What is your name, sir?
Thank you. Good morning to our guest. I think it's so good with the incident, especially with the screening of the presidential candidate. However, I'm a little bit disappointed with the way he handled Rachel Chanda, because he had to wait up to somewhere there. So if there was indeed something against him, why did they just have a meeting with him and tell him there's this issue, what is your position? I think, and like taking us into unnecessary debate as a nation, I think that was not good at all. So going forward, because these politicians, they've complained about this. You remember the UPSC also?
Yeah, please hurry up. Please hurry up so that we can give an opportunity to other people.
Thank you. On that one, I'm disappointed. Thank you.
Thank you, very much. The number to call us is 0761 0761912493. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Your name, please?
Good morning. How are you, sir?
Yeah, who's speaking?
I'm very fine, thanks. Even the devil surprise. You're speaking to Don Jam in the face, calling from Chingola.
You're calling from Chingola?
Yes, from Chingola. Don Jam in the face.
Your name, please?
Don Jam in the face, calling from Chingola.
All right. What is your question, sir?
Yeah, Chingola is very fine, thanks. Even the devil surprise.
All right. What is your question?
Sure. I would love to speak on concerning about the parliament. Mu parliament ba national speaker ba UPNT nangula ni bali fadi abafire ba lemene na kumbali chonse bena bafire ba pakati
right
kumuno go bati ba protect the constitution ya Zambia
right
banisha be vya ba opposition ngaba lande ni kuba throw out from the national house ni jabela ti ba UPNT bena tabatanja mu house. National speaker. That is my question.
Right.
Not so much my guest, I think.
This is the burning issue on Thursday. My guest is, Dr. Euston Chiputa. 0761912493. 0761912493. That's the number. Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning. Your
Good
name?
morning. Dr. Chiputa, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Mr. Douglas Nguni, calling from Chumpala, Chingola.
Yes, sir. Go ahead,
Dr.
please.
Chiputa, I want to say this. What you said about the Constitution and about democracy. When it came to democracy, you said the assembly will be floated with 200 plus members of parliament. You said democracy is very expensive. When Mr. Frank asked you about Bill 7, you said the government thought that they were asking a lot of money. Dr. Chiputa, when you think like this, Zambia is not governed by learned people. All of us, whether educated or not educated, have got a stake in the governance of this country. Bill 7 was very fraud. The president created Bill 7 to have another lacuna. He was on record to say the constitution has got a lot of lacunas. Do you know what lacuna has created? We don't know when a member of parliament crosses the floor. The new constitution, the Bill 13, he said 180 days before election, there will be no by-election. That is another lacuna. Any president who pushed the constitutional amendment 1 year before election, he knows that even if somebody crosses the floor, then the new bill says 180 days, there will be no by-election. Dr. Chiputa, don't think all of us are gullible. There are Zambians who think like me. Don't talk to all Zambians. If democracy is expensive, but Bill 7 wanted to be cheap, Mr. Chiputa, think twice. Zambians is for all of us. Whether you've got a degree, no degree, we are all Zambians. Think twice on this one. Thank you.
Thank you. We're taking another call. Then Dr. Chiputa can respond to that. 0761-912493. 0761-912493. Good morning.
Good morning, Ambassador.
Thank you so much. Are we speaking this morning?
Brother Banda.
Yes, Mr. Banda. Very quickly, go ahead with your question.
My question is just simple. I've heard said all Zambians, that's the Electoral Commission. Yes, they are. But the question is, last week's paper, it says the government will use the Electoral Commission of Zambia to work with the government of the day. What work is this that he meant? Me, I can't understand this statement. It's very strong for me. I can't understand. You were also commissioner to work with the government. What work does the president mean by saying that word statement? That's my question.
Thank you very much. Quickly, Doc, 3 questions. The first one, related to Mr. Chanda. His adoption was thrown out because of perceived bankruptcy. The caller said they should have told him much earlier than on the day. Then the second one, performance of the speaker, cost related to democracy, and then the last one is he wants to know what the president meant when he said ECZ should work with the government. Those 4 questions.
Well, to start with the issue of the speaker, maybe now is water under the bridge because that parliament is gone.
Absolutely.
Let's look forward to the next parliament and see. I think the president is not obliged to bring back the same speaker. The president may appoint somebody else as speaker, and so let's wait and see in that case. Mr. Douglas from Chingola, the Constitution, democracy, 200 plus, and then the issue of Bill 7, and that Zambia belongs to all of us. Indeed, is right. Zambia belongs to all of us, and that's why in Chingola previously, there were 2 constituencies, Chingola constituency and the Inchanga constituency. And your MPs, both were in parliament when these bills were being passed. I was not in parliament. For me, my job is to answer questions and explain the best I can in the manner I understand them. It has nothing to do with whether one is educated or not, because Zambia is not for, like you have rightly yourself said, it's not just for the educated, it's for everyone. And all of us have a stake in this country. And so when we are asked questions like I'm being asked now, my job is to explain these things. I'm not taking any side. The Bill 7 was passed by the same MPs who represent you. And I was not in parliament myself. So the argument that there are problems, yes, because we are human beings, we will always have problems. We must always encounter these problems, find a way of amicably solving them and moving the nation forward. The 180 days and by-elections and crossing over by MPs, crossing the floor. I think that the idea of crossing the floor is still there. If they cross the floor, then they should be censured. They should not be allowed. Actually, their seats must be declared vacant and then by-elections called. So in one way or another, I think it's important to bear in mind that when you are running a country, and running a country is not just for politicians, it's for every citizen. And that's why come August 13th, all of us must go and vote. 8-point-something million people registered. Everybody must go and vote so that you don't come out and start blaming others after the election results come out. Because democracy is a game of numbers. Those that have more numbers win the elections, and they drive the agenda of the nation, but of course in national interest. Then our band has asked about the president's statement that the Electoral Commission should work with the government of the day. I'm not the president, but from what I understand, every government institution works with the government of the day. It doesn't mean they support the government of the day. They operate under the administration of that government, just like all these other institutions that are under the state. They work with the government of the day. Even the chiefs have said that they work with the government of the day. Trade unions have said they work with the government of the day. Today is UPND. Tomorrow it will be your political party that will be in power. The ECZ will work with your government, because there must be liaison. There must be that relationship where the ECZ says we need the following things for us to function, right, and government has to procure those things. It doesn't mean the ECZ is favoring the government.
Before I pick up another 3-4 callers, Doc, the issue of the speaker, should there be a different method of electing a speaker than from the winning party?
Well, in other jurisdictions, the MPs themselves elect a speaker from amongst themselves. So perhaps that may be a way to go. But even then, if one party is predominant in the house, they will still carry the day anyway.
0761-912493. This is the Thursday edition of burning issue. My guest is Dr. Euston Chiputa. 0761-912493 is the number to call us if you'd like to contribute to our discussion this morning, where we're looking at governance issues and related issues. And don't forget, the country goes to the polls on the 13th of August. 0761-912493. Good morning.
Morning, sir. How are you?
I'm good. Your name, please?
Yeah, this is Mr. Chalo calling you from John Lane.
Yes, Chalo. Go ahead quickly.
Yes, I have got only one question. The councillors, they file in today or tomorrow?
I am not very sure about that, but I think it's today, I think. 0761-912493. 0761-912493 is the number to call us. Good morning. We don't have a caller. 0761-912493. Good morning.
Hello.
Morning. Your name, please? Yes, what is your question?
President kama alakwa ngati alakwa bantu baja beyasunga bafunika kukamba naye bwino oro bwanji kuchira kuponta ozi ndonse ndife mazambian ngati maona problem yeititika makambako bwino ngati simumufuna muzamuchosa because ndimwe munamufaka kuchira kukamba voipa.
Thank you very much. 0761-912493. 0761-912493. 0761-912493. This is the Thursday edition of Burning Issue. Good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Morning. Your name, please?
This is Laxon calling in Osaka.
Yes, Laxon, very quickly with your question.
Yeah, good morning. Morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
All right. Yeah, I just want to say that, the time that we are in right now is crucial. So, my encouragement to all the political parties, they shouldn't issue statements that will alarm the situation. Let's mind the way we do politics now, because at the end you find that we have only one Zambia. Now, if this country, you politician, you divide it, then you have got money politician. Us, we are just, nothing. We can't plan anywhere. This is the only country that we have. So, my encouragement to all political parties is that when they are issuing some statements, let them issue statements that will not hinder the other camps.
Excellent.
This
Excellent.
one I see, I've noticed some other camps, liking this to this political party doing that. So I think that's my take for now.
Excellent advice, and we thank you for that. 0761912493, 0761912493. This is the Thursday edition of Burning Issue. Good morning.
Hello.
Morning. Your name, please.
This is HH Opson Hatemba.
Yes.
Good morning, Mr. Frank.
Morning, HH. What is the question?
Good morning, the panel there. I have been following you, Mr. Frank, from way back the time you have been interviewing politicians, even other groupings.
Yes, sir.
I feel sad to see what happened yesterday, political-wise, the violence.
Yeah.
And the people, the way they are talking, they don't mind the way they are talking. We have children. Those people that are talking ill things about others, they have got children. What if tomorrow a child goes to marry that other child from that person? What are you going to do? After speaking all those issues, after brutalizing your friend, you beat your friend just for politics.
Yeah.
Someone nominates, the nomination of someone doesn't mean they have already won. You see? I don't understand why people should resort to fighting like this. Let's be peaceful as a nation. We are one people, one nation. Peace is most important for development of any nation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We're taking another caller. Then the doc will respond. 0761 912493. 0761 912493. Good morning. Good morning. We've lost, the caller there. Let's try again. 0761 912493. 0761 912493. That is the number. Good morning.
Hello, Mwashibuka Shani Frank Mtuya.
Mwashibuka mkwa inga imuni mbamani.
Ninewo Manford ndetu mina kuchira bombo.
Kulishani kuchira bombwe.
Aho kuchira bombo kwa mutenda nomination zere ya peaceful.
Chawa mabane. Aleni na tumfu efe mule.
Ine ndetu tena fiba Chiputa fiba londolo la ama problems ya kupiye. Sila ba londolo la ba Chiputa chishinka ichakora kitakuli no winga batali ka Chiputa. Sila fine ba chagwa bali no kufuma po fiba sha vacant ile ya president vacant for a long period. That's why some other people are taking advantage. Mamon.
Yeah.
Na totela ba Chiputa we si from londolo lulu shinka.
Thank you very much. I know. Let's see if we can respond to these three, and then we can possibly end with another 3 or 4. The first one, relationship with the president, and how do we relate to a president if we don't disagree with him? Then the next one, encouraging statement and not to fuel violence, especially from political parties, and also related again. The last one is also talking about violence. Doc.
Yes. I think the issue from Mr. Chalwe regarding when councillors are fighting in, I think it's easy to find out from anywhere in the community. But we know that MPs were given extra time because of the meticulous nature of the requirements. And also some parties may not have their act together at the time they are required. So they have been given extra time. Not like some people have been arguing to reduce the number of campaign days, but to afford every party, every person a chance to file in their nominations, so that at the end of the day, nobody turns around and says, I was shortchanged because I didn't have enough time. In my understanding, that's why ECZ said, let's push the nominations for MPs to, is it 27th?
Yeah.
Somewhere there. So that explained. Yes, Mr. Mwimbo has talked about insults. I think the culture of insults, particularly directing insults at the president, the ministers, literally insulting people in authority, is the same as insulting church leaders, insulting our parents. I don't think that is part of our culture. If you feel aggrieved, there are ways through which you can register your grievances. You can tell someone off without having to insult them, without having to say unprintables. There's a Zambian abroad who I was told, when I listened to them, I watched their video. They were told that they were not among those to be pardoned and allowed to come back. They started saying unprintables. I am scared, the kind of language that was used. That was most unfortunate. It was an Zambian, literally. And many other people hide behind laptops, behind their phones. They write unprintables. They speak so many bad things about leaders and other people, which really is unnecessary. There are other ways of airing your grievances. There are other ways of showing that you are very bitter, but you don't need to insult leaders. You don't need to insult your parents because you don't agree with them. That said, yes, the issue of alarming statements during this period, and in fact during any other time in the running of this country, we don't need to be very divisive, make statements that divide communities, that divide political systems, that divide the nation. I think all that is unnecessary because this is just a short time. I don't know if it's 70-something or days remaining.
Yeah.
We vote. We hear the results. 5 years, we go back to our daily routines. So why should we insult one another, fight one another, damage property just because you don't like someone or because you feel that someone challenging your candidate is not supposed to challenge your candidates? No, democracy is here, and democracy must accommodate everybody. And independence even are also provided for in the Constitution. So we must learn to live with these realities because that is what we chose as a nation in 1991, and we must be able to accommodate everyone. The issue of violence yesterday, I think, is the same thing that we have referred to.
We're taking, two final, callers. Do we have somebody on the line? 0761-912493, 0761-912493. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Who is speaking?
You are speaking to Isaac within Lusaka.
Yes, Isaac, very quickly.
Thank you so much. Good morning, my guest.
Good morning, sir.
Thank you so much. Yes, my advice to the police. We saw what happened yesterday from all part of the country. I think it should not happen again, because the police is there to protect the citizen, not to protect the party, but to protect the lives of us citizens. That's why they are being employed. That's the job, their job. So there's no need to come and start explaining how we are still investigating. Investigating what? You have seen a person who is harassing someone, then you are investigating. What are you investigating?
You're very
Just
right.
arrest that person.
You're
We
very
don't need favoritism because of this one is hiding in this party or this one is hiding in another party. We don't want that. That's why we removed PF, because of that thing. So these things shouldn't happen again.
Excellent.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We're taking our final caller. 0761-912493. 0761-912493. 0761-912493. Good morning. Good morning.
Hello?
Yes, sir. Your name, please?
This is Sudan is calling from Avondale.
Yes, please, quickly. We winding up now.
Yes. Me, I just want to talk about this word called investigating. You know, I wonder sometimes when I sit down to say, does police officers think like they are more educated than anyone as long as the person is not a police officer? How do you investigate someone? You are there in presence, someone is beating someone. You are saying this person is beating this one. You leave that person without arresting that person. And then later on you start saying, we are investigating. What kind of investigating is that?
Thank you
So,
very much.
I don't know how they feel like we are very dull. We don't know anything about it.
Point
This
taken.
This should stop.
Thank you very
much.
much.
Investigating and arresting are two different things.
Thank you so much. Maybe we try another caller. 0761-912493. 0761-912493. This is the burning, issue Thursday, edition. If we don't have a final caller, do we have a final caller? All right. Good morning.
Good morning, Frank. How are you?
I'm good. You're the final caller. Please go ahead quickly.
Yeah, good morning to Dr. Chiputa. My name is Lube Mugando. I'm calling from Zanimone.
Please go ahead.
Yes, my question, asking a comment from Dr. Chiputa, refers to the separation of the National Assembly and the executive. In particular, comparing the British model and the American model. I think people, to all these constitutional bodies that were constituted, they did indicate that we wanted ministers to come from outside Parliament. But that seems to have been ignored. And we continue to have ministers coming from inside Parliament. And we've seen what has happened because they neglect their constituencies. A lot of them have failed to be adopted for this election. So it's for their own benefit as well. Let ministers concentrate on ministries and MPs concentrate on the constitutions, on their on their constituencies, on matters of Parliament, as well as keeping track of how these ministries work. Maybe just a comment from Bachi.
Brilliant, and have a wonderful day. Yeah, Doc.
Yes, indeed. Maybe let me start with Lobe's argument, the issue of separation of powers, the US system, the British system. Yes, indeed, the separation of powers between the three arms of government do exist. The challenges that we face where there are overreaches in the governance system, sometimes those are unfortunate, but we can still realign this. However, the issue of MPs coming into parliament and then being ministers themselves, I think that has come up in various commissions of inquiry. Zambians have argued that let ministers come from outside parliament. And perhaps this is one of the reasons why we now, through what was then Bill 7, people proposed that there be a larger number of people through proportional representation, so that perhaps whoever becomes president can choose some of the ministers from among those who have come in through proportional representation, because the nomination aspect, the 8 that were there, maybe we'll have now 10 or 11, that is restrictive. There are not many enough. But with proportional representation and the nominated ones, perhaps a number of them that will find themselves in parliament could be appointed as ministers. But still, the constitution requires that the president should appoint ministers from among elected members of parliament and then nominate a few. And so in that regard, perhaps now we'll see a different complexion, and that then brings back Bill 7 and its relevance, condemned as so many people did about it. But it has its own advantages, like this issue Lube has pointed out, that can we have a lot more people being appointed from outside parliament? So those that will go in through proportional representation, they will have no constituencies. Those that are nominated have no constituencies. Perhaps they may be a slightly higher number from among those that will be part of the cabinet, but that does not absolve the cabinet ministers of the blame of not being able to visit their constituencies and implement development programs, particularly in the current situation where so much money was being dispensed to constituencies through CDF for development projects. Although, of course, others have argued that that meant simply taking money from line ministries and putting it in CDF. But whichever vehicle is used, the idea is the money is meant for development, and the MPs should ensure that their constituencies are developed, their constituencies advance, progress is made in their constituencies. So, unfortunately, every time the aspect of appointing ministers from outside parliament came up, it was shut down by the MPs themselves, because maybe it's the idea of baking cakes and eating them yourselves rather than selling them and making the money. So, at the end of the day, the issue of the police, for example, I think the police should be more alert. When you are stationed at a place where nominations are taking place, where voting is taking place, or whatever activities are taking place, alertness on the part of the police, I think, is crucial, especially under the current situation. The issue of the violence and why the police should investigate. You know, when violence takes place, yes, one person may stand out as the person who was inflicted pain on another person, but the police want to get down to the bottom. What is the genesis of this violence, so that it doesn't occur again in the future? So, in my view, when the police say they are investigating, they are not just investigating that person. They are investigating the circumstances. Who else is linked to this violence? Because maybe the instigators are not even on the scene. Absolutely. The police want to get up to those instigators so that they deal with the situation once and for all. And that's why you have heard 20 people were arrested. And yet you saw only one people looking like it was the one who was confronting the honorable MP. But there were other people around. So that when the police investigate, they want to zero in on everybody who is involved. In my view, that's the way I see. And that's the way I understand when the police say they are investigating.
Right. Just one issue before we close, Doc. What are the issues for this election, that are dear to the electorate? And, what are your expectations from all the stakeholders, the political parties, the EC's aid, the police, and the electorate? And at the end, what post-election do you envisage Zambia?
What are the issues? I think the cost of living looms very large. Governance, in the manner we have carried ourselves in the last 5 years, looms quite large as well. Particularly accusations that the ruling party, the government, rather than the ruling party, that the government dealt more sternly with those that were from the opposition than those of their own rank and file. So those are issues that may loom large. But basically, the most important is the economy. That's the elephant in the room. Because the issue of cadres is, I think, no longer a factor, except the violence that we are seeing. But I think the police are on top of things. They'll ensure that that stops. Post-election, what complexion of Zambia do we see? It will depend on the way the Zambian people vote on 13th August. They know what matters most to themselves. And so when they vote, when the results are announced, we shall know which party will have won or which coalition of parties will have won and how they will form government. But also we need to hear both the ruling party and the opposition, what is in it for the Zambian people beyond 2026? What does the ruling party want to achieve after 2026? What do the opposition promise? I've heard promises that they will improve the economy, they will improve the standard of living. That is good. But can they go beyond and explain the nitty-gritties? How will you improve the economy? How will you industrialize, for example? Because industrialization is key to the development of this country. So how will your industrialization policy be a lot better and different from both the current government and the previous Patriotic Front government, of which some of the key opposition leaders were part? So we need to understand, the nation needs to know these things so that they go to the polls with an informed mind. But particularly the opposition, they really need to do a lot of hard work to convince the Zambians that they are up to the task. Although elsewhere have been, some people have said the Zambians have made up their minds, regardless of what the UPND has done, they are just going to vote them out. It shouldn't work like that. We should be sober and not emotional when considering these matters, because the government we will elect will preside over national issues for the next 5 years. So we need to do a lot of soul searching. We need to do a lot of understanding of the situation on the ground. And above all, in my view, it's important for us as citizens to understand, how does development take place? If we just want to eat, enjoy ourselves at the expense of our children who will be coming after us, that is fine. We can enjoy ourselves, but we are ruining the future of the country. So sometimes as parents, we need to bite the bullet. We need to suffer in order to create prosperity. Prosperity is not just for the present, but for the future as well.
Thank you, Doc. Always, an honor to have you on, our shows. Thank you very much, Dr. Chiputa, and have a wonderful day. And, God bless you.
I appreciate. Thank you for having me.
My guest has been Dr. Euston, Chiputa, who is a historian. We looked at a number of, governance issues. We at 5FM, will ensure that you are on top of, things, especially governance issues, so that we can help you make an informed decision. For those stakeholders who would like, to come, and, be on our programs. If you want to buy airtime and use our platform, to reach out, to people who are all over the country, will be just too delighted to give you the forum. To the listeners, thank you, very much, for listening. And just before we wind up, before I play my final song, we at 5FM would like, to extend our condolences, to the loved ones, of the late Archbishop Teles from Pundu, who is being put to rest, today. We also extend the same to the Catholic fraternity and the people of Zambia. I'm Frank Mutubila. Here's Sissy Winehouse with Holy, Holy, Holy Forever.